and I was like pulling it out for something, and I was like, it ended at 9:15. It ended at 9:15. What if the subject of the I know. Oh, I know. So, you know,
previously about joint studies.
Well, it's already been, yeah, it's already added. It's just a question of shifting.
They just wanted to show how they felt about it and then European rules.
Yeah.
Well, no, I think they want to know where our position is. Yeah, it's just a study. But I told them, I said, let me check. I said, I immediately have to have the Okay.
It's something silly I made up. Yeah,
And there was no. And so. He made it. Yeah, so that one was done on the other side. It's hard to. Exactly.
morning, everyone.
But it was interesting that that was the.
Okay, my first sign-up is Delegate Levine.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, subcommittee, let's give our attention to Delegate Levine. Please explain yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. This bill was reported unanimously and referred up here by the full courts of justice and also by the court of criminal.
You pull that mic a little closer for your very deaf.
Maybe I should turn it on first.
There we go. That makes things a lot easier.
Chairman who wears hearing aids, okay?
So HB 2127 was reported unanimously up here and referred up here by courts of justice and by the criminal court subcommittee. The original bill had a fiscal impact, but the revised bill, amended in committee, has only an indeterminate fiscal impact. This is a PERCS bill, Fiscal Evidence Recovery Kits. And basically what it does is current law stores these kits 10 years. And that might make sense if someone is sexually assaulted at the age of 30. But if you have a child who's sexually assaulted at the age of 10, current law would say that these kits may be destroyed when the child reaches the age of 20. And I suspect that a young girl raped at the age of 10 may have difficulty getting in prosecutorial form by the age of 20. One, because there may be some emotional difficulty in doing that, but also because that child may well be under the financial wherewithal of the person she's trying to accuse. If it's a stepfather or something like that, she could be 19 years old and not have the financial independence. What this bill does is it gives her till 10 years after she becomes an adult, so she'd have till age 28. By that time, I would hope that she...
The courts committee was fine with your policy.
Yes.
As you put it out, okay.
Yes.
So
This-
we're here to look at the financial piece, to advise that the financial piece has been mitigated in this bill. Is there anybody in the audience who'd like to speak in favor of the bill that was not already heard by the committee of jurisdiction? Is there anybody who'd like to be opposed to the bill? Hearing none, we operate by motion. There's a motion to report, duly seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members. of the board.
Let's see, I don't have anybody else to set, but I see Delegate Bell. I would like to take up this bill now, so the committee, please give your attention to Delegate Bell.
Mr. Chair, you have several bills.
Can you take up 1782, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, this arises from the Deeds Commission, and the issue was what happens when there's a suspicious death or an unexplained death in jail. And what we discovered, there's a very unfortunate death at the Hampton Roads Regional Jail. In case you may have read about a young man named Michael Mitchell was picked up, was supposed to go into the mental health system, and they put the transfer in a drawer. He stayed in the jail, and many days later, he starved to death and died in the jail. And when the time came to investigate what happened, there was no agency that was tasked with doing that. The Inspector General's office said, we're not going to do it. We looked at the Department of Corrections handles prisons, and we ultimately landed on the Board of Corrections. It's not the department, but the Board of Corrections. It's a citizen panel that oversees regulations for the board. They don't have the staffing, and so if you want to do jail investigations, no matter where you cite it, Department of Corrections, Inspector General's office, Board of Corrections, they will need an investigator. The cost comes from hiring that investigator. I have spoken with the chairman of the chairman and mentioned that this was really a mental health issue, even though it's in the public safety silo, if you will. And he is supposed to take that into account. And with that, I would hope you would recommend it. We are open to anything to do that would make it less expensive or some other place to cite this need that we investigate when someone dies in one of our jails. We tried and couldn't find anything better. The cost is going to be roughly the same no matter where you put it, because it's just a question of hiring a couple of investigators to do the work. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. I think we're fundamentally supportive of the concept of the policy. The question we're stuck with is the cash.
Understand.
Any comments from anybody here that wants to speak to the bill that was not heard in the committee of jurisdiction?
Mr. Chairman, Mike Edwards, Kemper Consulting on behalf of the Association of Regional Jails. We want to thank Delegate Bell for his hard work on this bill, and we support it.
It's good policy. That's not a debate here. Anybody opposed to the bill? Okay, I just say that our consideration here is money. We're trying to do several things this year that are priorities, and this is an important thing, but we do operate by motion.
Mr. Chairman,
Delegate Pease.
I'm not allowed to speak before I make a motion. Is that accurate?
I'm sure we'll allow you.
I just want to, again, join with others who recognize Delegate Bell's efforts in this regard. This committee acted this week on a bill that deals with how community services boards will review information, including providing pre-admission screening for regional jail inmates. So we're trying to take a look at how that is done and improve processes there. And I don't believe that had a fiscal impact. So I don't want anyone in the public to think that we're ignoring this problem. We do have a concern about the finances, and we're taking steps towards a better process. So that is generally the
If not, that's not debatable. Is there, I hear one duly seconded. All in favor will say aye. Okay, Delegate Bell. 1782.
Is it 84?
1783.
I did, thank you, yes, sir. So one of the issues that have come up with the jails is we're trying to back up a step. All of us are hopeful we will have a day one day when mental health is not delivered at the jails. All of us will be dead before that day arrives, and in fact, in many places, especially rural localities, a majority of the mental health care, especially the late at night, 2 a.m. guy who's decompensating health care, is delivered at the jail. And so one of the things we discovered is that we have big jails and small. We have ones with very few resources and one with enormous resources. We don't really have a good handle on the size of the problem because they're using different instruments to do the initial screening, if you will. So what happens is someone comes to a jail, whoever is on staff, so the corrections officer, who may be a 19-year-old with minimal training, has to do an initial screening to say this is somebody who needs to see a doctor. We want to have a unified screening instrument so that they all use the same screen, so at least we know how big the problem is, where the problem might be, and if people are using the same test. And then the next step would be we want to have a fixed time after the screening is positive where they get before a real doctor to see if it's something they really need. These jails are happy to use whatever screening instrument is presented to them, but they don't have the resources or expertise to develop one. The plan is to have someone develop a unified screen, and then the jails will start using it. And then, of course, the big cost driver is this 72-hour, you got to get in front of a doctor within 72 hours. If it impacts your thinking, the jails have to do this. They're required constitutionally to provide necessary health care to those that are in their jail. This is to try to set some parameters on when it has to happen. Because of that, we think that the fiscal impact is overstated. I know that and everyone comes up here and says that it's too high, but the jail's got to do this. All we're doing is saying you got to do it within 72 hours. If the panel was inclined to support just a unified screening instrument, but can't afford the bigger 72 hours, we certainly would prefer the whole thing, but we would take what we can get. But Mr. Chair, that's the bill. Thank you.
By the way, I associate myself with your statement about overstated cost. But I take note that the governor's introduced budget included this exact amount.
Yeah.
So if it was an overstated cost, it was overstated when he submitted his budget recommendation. On the policy, I think this is a spot-on policy. If you look at, I dealt with a sheriff several years ago, Delegate Bell, that basically said, hey, newsflash, all the people that need to be treated, I know where they're sleeping tonight. They're here. And one of the issues that struck me, and David, I just mentioned this to you because I'd like to look at this, I'd like the subcommittee to examine this year and sort of dive into this particular piece, because you've got the CSBs out there that are treating people, but we need to find a way to get these things together. And I don't think they're together very well. That's just my personal view. But it does seem to me that if you have an opportunity to treat somebody when you have them in custody, and that you can actually deliver some health care to them, that at least mitigates the revolving door of them being released, going out, going into the public park and doing something they have to be arrested for again, and they're right back in jail. So there's that cost as well. So I agree with you. I think the cost is overstated, but unfortunately it's there. Comments from the committee? Okay, we operate, all right, I'm sorry, are there people here who didn't speak in the committee jurisdiction who would like to speak?
Mr. Chairman, Mike Edwards, Kemper Consulting, on behalf of the Association of Regional Jails, I want to thank Dr. Bell again. As he said, we're all doing screenings, but this will make it a coordinated, more effective screening. We support it.
Totally agree. And can you commit that with this subcommittee, we will be looking at this. I'm going to put this as a thing I want to look at this during the interim time. Mike, can you be available to?
Yes, sir.
Work with us? Okay.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman,
Delegate Dees.
reference prior comments, but also add that this committee is considering a budget amendment that will ask DCJS to not only look at minimum training standards for law enforcement, but these minimum training standards for jails, corrections as well, which is 10 years old at this point. And so hopefully through that process in DCJS, we'll be able to look at this issue.
So you know, Rob, our standards are lagging about a decade, frankly. This has to be brought into the 21st century.
Mr. Chairman,
There's a motion laid bill on the table, not debatable. All in favor, say aye. Delegate Bell, you have another thing.
Mr. Chair, but good news on this one, we refished it, whatever the term is, had it repriced. And
This is
it was
1856 committee.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair, in an effort, given the signals we had sent down by your committee, which we always appreciate when we do our work, we'll be delighted to hear we have, this has been rescored and the price is zero.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we recommend reporting on bill.
Motion to report the bill duly seconded. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to the bill that was not already recognized in the committee of jurisdiction? And we are here to look at the finance questions. Hearing none, there's a motion to report duly seconded. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no reports.
Chair, thank you.
Yes, sir. Delegate Ransom. Yes, ma'am. Tell us about your bill 1844.
Morning, Mr. Chairman. 1844 seeks to amend the code that relates to the responsibilities of the executive secretary. Basically, what we would do is open up the court's information system so that the system is searchable by defendant's name across all localities and across all courts. And it would also expand the information system to include the adult cases of the JD&R courts. This idea was brought to me by a woman that was beaten horribly by a gentleman. I really didn't know what I was getting myself into when I brought this legislation forward.
Probably not beaten by a gentleman.
No, you're right, he was not a gentleman.
But you're a
Exactly.
very courteous person.
He was a monster, let's rephrase that, he was a monster. I spoke to a Commonwealth's attorney and he said, Delegate Ransom, I think the best option, not to create a new registry, but to look at the court's information system. I have met the needs of Action Alliance just to make sure that we are not opening up any of the children or victims in the cases. And as I began my research, I have found that the Supreme Court has been receiving nearly $13 million since 2001 to work on this court's information system. I'm not an IT person, but I've also heard from some of the Commonwealth's attorneys and other people in the legal field and some of the localities that we should be updating this system. They're also supposed to be sending a report to DPP, the Department of Planning Budget, on an annual basis. I tried to get that report. It was like pulling teeth to get that report. I don't know that that was being done. I do have a fiscal impact with this.
I'm taking note of that.
Which, again, $13 million a year since 2001.
Question for patron, and I know we're looking at the financials, and so while this is a policy-related question, I think it may also impact the financials. Delegate Ransom, do you know what the cost would be if it were only to target the adult cases in juvenile court? Is there a way to segregate that out? And the reason why I ask is because I think that, to me at least, and maybe the only one, is one of the most important things, because that's when you can find out somebody's there for maybe a protective order or otherwise. And in family law, and if you were ever a guardian ad litem, there may be people who are involved with your civil case, custody visitation, that are also in court for a protective order, say. That would be very good information to have when you're making a recommendation for custody visitation. So is there a number just for that and not for the whole?
I guess that would be a question for the executive secretary. I'll tell you, I've had so many people come into my office and say, we could do this whole thing for just a small amount of money. This fiscal impact is so exploded. So
We are simpatico in that view. Yes, ma'am. Delegate, please. Do you have
No, that was my question. If she could answer that, and then I've got a motion.
Okay, I'm gonna, before we do a motion, I'm gonna have some points to make. Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Christy Wright, Office of the Executive Secretary, Supreme Court. I think to answer Delegate Peace's question, it is in the fiscal impact. If I direct your attention to the required work for the Juvenile and Domestic Relations District Court search capacity, just under $200,000 to do that. And if I might be able to respond to some of Delegate Ransom's points. the 13.1 million is not just for the online case information system. There are multiple projects within that. Just to give you an understanding of the volume that we currently face, the online case information system now currently has online non-confidential records of the circuit courts, 118. There's 2 circuit courts who are currently not on our system, and that's Fairfax and Alexandria, and all general district court case information. And both of these contain criminal and civil. We get about 5 million hits a day on these systems. And we anticipate, and that's not just Virginia users, we're talking national and international. We are being hit by bots. And part of the expense that was in the original fiscal impact is to take that statewide. We anticipate a much higher usage and getting hit by particularly the bots. And the other thing you need to understand is this is the system, the online case information system is a nearly real-time system. The information that the circuit court, the clerks, general district and circuit, are putting into their case management systems, that when you go to the court and they're tracking the cases, that information is updated about every 10 minutes on what you see online.
Let me interrupt you. I don't want to have a hearing on your mainframe, okay? But I do want to make this point to you. You have brushed up to an issue that I am concerned about. And that is, it's my view, having talked to many clerks, that we are in desperate need of a complete upgrade into a system. And I know it costs a lot of money, but you guys need to take a look at that. And if you know, step into the 21st century, you're working off on technologies that are way long ago, and it needs to be brought in the 21st century, because this problem she wants to solve is not hard. This is an easy problem to solve if you have the right integration. And I think that's in part the reason we're staring at this big cost. Now, that said, let me just say to the subcommittee, I have a sidebar with the council, and we will take a look, Delegate Ransom, and see if we can craft, and I'm not promising we will, but we will take a look at the usefulness of crafting some kind of budget language that would help you guys congeal what really needs to be done to solve her problem, okay? She's got a problem, needs to get solved. Larger issue, in my judgment, is you guys have a computer system that, you know, probably would show up in Stony. It needs to bring it into the 21st century. I mean, that's just not it. Okay. All right, there's a motion to table the bill, not debatable. Is there a second? All in favor say aye. Thank you. We'll get back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. All right. I think, why don't we take up Delegate Rush? Delegate Rush, you can just right from where you are.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, Delegate Ransom, so you know that not all bills are, just if you're on the committee, that your bill is treated differently. My bill had a very late impact on the budget. So, Mr. Chairman, I move we table it. I will make the point that the underlying policy is excellent.
The underlying policy is great, because I think most of us voted for it, but in any case, there's a motion not debatable to table the bill. All in favor will say aye. Aye. All opposed, bill is tabled. Delegate Jones's bill, are you going to handle the chairman's bill? Just pay attention to the chairman's bill.
Okay, this is House Bill 2470. It's in the last page of the packets. This has to do with drug scheduling. This is a technical amendment to the state drug schedule that is going to have state code conform with DEA scheduling decisions made in 2016. Fentanyl, which is a synthetic fentanyl used in veterinary medicine, will be added to Schedule 2. And Rivera Sedum, sorry, I'm not a pharmacist, is a Seizure medication being added to Schedule 5 by the bill. We get these every year or every other year. It's really a technical bill, however, because it is adding a new drug to Schedule 2, which is a classified felony. If you are possessing it unauthorized, there is a $50,000 woodroom impact the second year.
Everybody understands the bill? Anybody here in favor of the bill, wants to speak to the bill? Anybody opposed to the bill? Hearing none, there's a motion on the bill. Okay, motion to report, duly seconded, all in favor say aye. To report. Council, do we have anybody else that we expect to have to deal with here in the subcommittee? Yeah. Heard all our budget amendments.
Yeah, we've heard the budget amendments. We're still seeing bills come up from the policy committee, so we may have to have an extra meeting tomorrow immediately before the full committee meetings. But we'll let all of you know.
Just committee, we're having a special meeting of militia, police, and public safety directly after session to, in fact, deal with a bill that needs to come in this direction because of the fiscal impact. And you probably understand where we are with fiscal impacts these days. So, okay, any other comments from the committee? Thank the subcommittee for your hard work. You will rise.